Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount, an unbelievable book that everybody in real estate who needs to prospect to be able to support themselves should read and read multiple times. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, also really good. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And these are just like books that have like really helped me develop a mindset of accountability. All right, so I've been sharing this presentation with agents across the country at scale, and it's really resonated with them, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. So I wanted to go ahead and shoot a video on it. And it's this idea that I call, what is the mindset of accountability? And I really feel like this is the backbone of every great business, but it's also the intersection of every great change in an agent's career. When you can really embrace what is accountability and get behind that, it's really gonna be the thing that changes your business. Because I think so many of us are waiting for something new to come in, or some new thing we can buy, or some new thing we can learn. But the reality is, as much as this industry is changing, and it's changing a lot, guys, there's still certain success principles that just go hand in hand with this concept of developing a mindset of accountability. And I want to share it with you. And, I think the first thing is like understanding, like, what is your definition of accountability? I like this definition I'll read here off my screen is, accountability is essential in business because it helps to establish trust, transparency, and responsibility within an organization. When businesses are accountable, they take ownership of their actions and decisions and are willing to be held responsible for any negative outcomes that may arise as a result. This helps to build trust with a team, its members, its customers, its employees, and its affiliates. And I really want to embrace this idea of a mindset of accountability, whether you're a brand new agent and you're looking to get started and you're just confused or overwhelmed, or you're an agent that's been doing it a while and all of a sudden your business is down 50%. Or you find yourself in the position of a team leader or broker owner and you're leading these agents and you don't know what to do. And your agents are having, maybe their worst year ever, and you're trying to like help them grapple with that, and you're trying to lead them into the change that they're going to need in order to survive and thrive in this market. I think this presentation is going to help each and every one of you in those categories. So let's dive in. Accountability is the glue that bonds commitment to action. And that's a quote by Bob Proctor that I love, I live by. I feel like, when we can have that commitment and we can be accountable to that commitment, it's that accountability, it's that glue that gets us from, hey, we're over here and we have this goal or this need to accomplish something, which is over there. How are we going to get there? So, what are the benefits of accountability when we see it through? Accountability increases the responsibility and transparency. Transparency is key. If you're not transparent, you're never going to be accountable. And the good thing is, I'm going to share with you in this video an accountability plan that's going to cultivate and force out transparency, meaning you're not going to be able to not be transparent if done correctly. And when an organization and its team members and customers move towards this, amazing things can happen. You can thrive in any market. So I like to look at it in these different components. We have organizational transparency, we have enhanced communication culture, we have increased feelings of competency, personal responsibility, and talent development. So when it comes to implementing an accountability plan, this is where I see a lot of people shy away from there. Say, John, I'm just like a people person and this feels very like contentious and I don't want to be a babysitter. Like, have you ever felt those things? Have you ever felt like, man, I don't even know if I want to run a team or scale my business because I don't want to have to be responsible for more people. I don't want to have to get employees. I don't want to deal with any of that. And a lot of that just stems from a fear of accountability. We're not sure we want to lead or manage people because we don't really know how that's going to look and feel, and it doesn't seem like it's going to feel good to us, so we avoid it. The reality that I've experienced is when we can develop the right accountability plan, it makes all of those interactions and those, outcomes that you experience with people so much better. And I've found that personally, some of my greatest fulfillment and, joys in business have come when I've been able to work directly beside somebody and help them achieve a result they couldn't achieve on their own. When we think about the vision for our company, as well as the expectations and responsibilities of all the people that are involved, I want us to look at this as, hey, how are we going to attain these things that we want to do? And the way that we're going to have to do that is really 4 different steps. We're going to set KPIs, which stands for key performance indicators. And those are going to be our benchmarks, and we're going to have those for each role within the company. So, if you're an admin, you're going to have specific roles to the tasks that you do. And those KPIs are going to be looked at. If you're an agent and maybe you're an agent selling on the buyer side, we're going to look specifically into this video. What exactly are the KPIs for that role as I see it? And I'll show you how that increases the transparency. And then we're going to develop a method of tracking and obtaining these KPIs on a regular basis. This is going to be critical. And then we're going to establish a weekly rhythm of reviewing those results together. And lastly, we're going to define and communicate what is the actual performance improvement plan if you don't measure up or hit what you define as the bar for what's required from your people. And we're going to make that super clear. So time out. We're talking about a lot of different things right now. Here's a quote that I want to share with you that's really helped me as all of this stuff starts to set in and can feel overwhelming. And it says this: if you're going to be a leader, you're not going to please everybody. You have to hold people accountable, even if you have that moment of being uncomfortable. And that's a quote by Kobe Bryant. And for those of you that know Kobe Bryant's story, not only did he have his basketball coaches and, did all of that and, exceeded at the highest level there, but oftentimes when he got done with a basketball game, when everybody else would go out and maybe have dinner or have drinks and party, whatever they did, Kobe Bryant would get on a plane and go see his other coach. There was a guy named Tim Glover, also the coach of Michael Jordan. And this is where Kobe would just dig in and go extra deep on this level of accountability, what he was willing to do in order to achieve the greatness that he was seeking. And, I think for us, like we're all in a position of leadership. Even if you're just a single agent right now, you're in a position of leading yourself. And what can happen with accountability is we can do a bad job at leading ourselves, and it breaks that trust that we have with our own subconscious. And as we begin to break that trust and don't do the things that we know we're supposed to do, it becomes harder and harder for us to do those things that we need to do. We lose the trust with ourselves that we can do it. And that's a muscle that you have to continually develop. That's why teams have, generally an accountability plan that's easier to uphold because there's collectiveness. It's why workout programs like CrossFit and things like that, where there's a community involved, tend to have a higher success rate because you're not doing it on your own. So just kind of think through that. If you're all by yourself, like who's an accountability partner you can get to overcome that. And when we do this plan, it's going to really encourage transparency and honesty. The goal is to foster an atmosphere of excellence. And if we're going to be excellent, we have to really take measure and take claim of where we are right now, where we're trying to go. Did we do what we needed to do? Are we falling short? Another quote I like is, personal accountability requires mindfulness, acceptance, honesty, and courage. And here's some of the challenges that we're all going to face with accountability. First of all, it may require some change. It may require you to do some things differently than you're doing, and all change is difficult. And there's going to be resistance to change personally, or if you're leading a team. What's important for them to understand when there's change is like, what's in it for them? Because the second challenge you're going to have is a lack of buy-in. And if people don't understand what's in it for them, and you can't clearly articulate, hey, by doing these things, we're going to get this result that you're all after, they're not going to want to go through that pain of change to do them. And the third thing that I see a lot of times with an accountability plan that fails is a lack of clarity or a lack of consistency from the leadership. So let's say we, come up with a perfect plan here today, and I'm going to show you one relative to working with your agents. Everything sounds good. We do everything right. If the leader doesn't provide ongoing and consistent, adherence to that plan, it's all going to fall apart, guys, because it's that consistency over time that's going to lead to the clarity that they're going to see, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to get these results as a company. And that's what's really going to help. So when you have true buy-in, when you do this right, like you're going to have a company that thrives whether you're in the office or not, because everybody's going to have that buy-in. A great book to help you get more buy-in into your vision and what you want to do is a book called The Energy Bus. It's real short, it's real easy. We could normally read it most people can read it in an hour to 2 hours, depending on how fast or slow a reader you are. And we would read this every single year as a company. And, it was just a good reset. I might pull it out like at a slower time of year, get us ready for this next season coming up. But it's the idea that we're all going to be on the same page. We're all going to be in the right seats, doing the right roles, and we're all going to be achieving the goal together. It's really important. It's a book that's really helped me. So, accountability challenges, We've got to get clear. We've got to have a plan. We got to define these KPIs. So I'm going to give you an example of running a real estate team and working with buyer agents. So many of us, when we start a real estate team, the first people that we bring on board are buyer agents that are going to primarily help us with buyer deals because we have an overflow of business. We're going to focus more as the team leader on getting more listings, which is just a profitable, successful way to scale and grow a team. It's not to say that the other agents can't do listings as well. It's just generally speaking, you're going to take more listings because you can manage your time better with that. And you're going to give the overflow of business or the overflow of leads to agents that are primarily going to be starting out working with buyers. And there's really 7 KPIs that I have for this role. So when we get an agent into this role, we can say, hey, this is just an example of how we would say it. We'd say, hey, based on years and years and years of data of agents that have successfully come through our program, through our office, here's the things that we measure in order to get results. And that is new contact attempts, contacts had, then once you had the contacts, did you set an appointment? Did the appointment show up? Then once you had the appointment, did you get them to sign the agency agreement that they wanted to work exclusively with you? And then what was the follow-ups that you had with people that you've met with that are not under contract? And then lastly, new contracts. So those are 7 things we track. Now, I'll be happy to share a copy of my lead management policy with you, just a general version, and you can use that to kind of help refine and define your own. So be looking for that in the notes below. And just understand, it's really important that you clearly define these KPIs, not only having them, but also a very clear definition for what each one stands for. As an example, if I didn't define follow-up and what that KPI is for us, you might be very confused and say, well, I scheduled a home inspection with a buyer and, that was follow-up. Well, no, it's not. Follow-up as defined in our model was only people that you've met with that have not contracted on a house yet. And it was really important because what we want the KPIs to do is we want them to tell a story. So when we get good data in, when they honestly and transparently tell us what they did for that week, it will begin to tell a story which will help us identify exactly where we need to help that agent. For example, if I sit down with an agent, I'm going to say, hey, thanks so much for taking the time. We got 15 minutes for this appointment. I wanted to go through your stats from the last, 2 weeks or 30 days. I recommend that you do these meetings once a month. And I would like to look at, what you did. And okay, you've done these many contacts, you've gotten in contact with people, or you haven't. So there's like each one tells a story. So if you've had a lot of contacts and you haven't set a lot of appointments, then what are you saying to these people? What are they saying back to you? And we can role play that. If you had a lot of contact attempts and you haven't spoken to anybody, well, when are you calling? There's different tools and resources that we can provide that will tell you, hey, here's an ideal time to talk to this person. And by doing this together, we sit down and we find the hole in their boat. Then we plug it and we're able to say, okay, guys, this is what we're going to work on for the next 2 weeks. We've just role played it. We've just come up with some proactive suggestions to improve here. This is what I want you to focus on. And when we get back together in 2 weeks, we'll set the appointment right now. Let's look at this one thing and let's see if we can improve it. Guys, when you start to run your team that way, it's not going to be a, hey, so tell me what's going on. And they tell you a bunch of stuff, or they try to place blame and put it all on your shoulders. And you begin to get frustrated. You begin to say, I don't even know if I want this team anymore. But when you begin to run your team this way and you run it on KPIs and you inherently have the accountability in place, you're going to be able to measure what matters and you're going to be able to move them forward. They may not always like it. It may not always be comfortable, but back to what we said about great leaders, it's required. It's you being their coach. If I was just their friend and I show up, I don't really care if they do the work or not. Like, I'm just their friend and I'm there. That's not being a great leader. When you think about anybody who's at the top of their game, athletically, business-wise, they all have coaches or mentors. And the idea of a coach or mentor relationship is that somebody's going to help you see and call you out on things that you're not doing that are, in violation of what you said was important for you. So, imagine a sports athlete who's got a coach who doesn't show up to practice. Do you think they're going to even play in the game, no less do well in the game? Chances are not, because there's an expectation and there's a consequence. And We have to be like coaches for our agents in this time more than any other time. People want to like blame the market, blame the shift, blame this, blame AI. Like they just want it to be something about anything other than them. But the reality is that there's certain things that need to happen in order for a real estate agent to be able to close deals. And if those things don't happen, if we're not generating leads, so if you're running a team, that may be your responsibility. If you're a single agent, that's your responsibility. If we're not generating leads to start with, and we're not contacting those leads and moving them through a sales cycle, which is what these KPIs define, then we're never going to have success regardless of what the economy does. So when it comes to accountability best practices, here's where that rhythm comes into place. We want to have a weekly rhythm. We want to get these people together to manage their results together. What I found works best is when we do this in a public setting. If it's one-on-one, it can just become, between you and them, and that's more effective than, doing it on your own. So if you're a single agent and you're like, hey, I'm going to be accountable to myself, good luck with that. You're going to have a much better results if you get a partner, maybe a spouse, maybe another real estate agent in your market, and you say, hey guys, we're going to do this together. We're going to come together and be accountable to one another. You're going to get much better results that way. In a team environment, I find that what works best is getting them together and doing this in person if possible. That's not possible. Zoom is your next best choice. Zoom works well too. I just found that the in-person camaraderie and then, maybe having like some lunch or something afterwards and breaking bread with them, that's what worked best for me in years and years and years in doing this. When you have your accountability meeting, you want to go over the KPIs and you want to do that together. And then you want to highlight the activity that you want to most endorse or reward. You want to give them recognition for that. And we can do recognition in a lot of different ways. We tried to make it fun. Some things that we would do, we'd give out like these Vegas weight poker chips. And I was actually just corresponding with an agent that used to work with me, and he still has some of these poker chips, and he sent me a picture of them. But they were cool. They were like Vegas weight poker chips, and they were green or black, and they would represent $5 or $10. And the agents could use these to buy, company swag with our logo on it. They could use it for different events that we would do, like we'd do a team breakfast every month. We'd do happy hours together, and they could turn these chips in for, the equivalent of those dollars for these activities. So it was a really fun way of doing recognition. We would also highlight and we would have incentives. We might do, different incentives throughout the year, a slower period or getting into a bigger period. We would do these different games. We would break up into teams, and we would incentivize the agents based around these KPIs and this accountability, and they would get points. Worked really good, guys, to get people excited and motivated. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, all of this is designed to get somebody to do something that they don't want to necessarily do in order to get the result that they desperately want. And I think that if we take a step back right now and we look at the real estate industry and we look at agents, many agents are saying, hey, I'm having a really down year. It's much worse than it was last year. We're in a shift. So for the first time in many of these agents' careers, the market has gone down, not up year over year, for the first time in their career. And the compound effect of that, when they don't have a business principle in place and they're not doing some of these foundational activities and being accountable to them, is, oh no, I'm in trouble. And the way to get out of trouble is to get back to the basics and start doing the things that are going to drive business forward for you. And guys, it's not super complicated. These are things that we can do, and we can say, hey, if we do these things, we will get results. Numbers don't lie. The law of large numbers will always serve you. Some books that I really like around this, and I'll post these in the show notes as well, are Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount, an unbelievable book that everybody in real estate who needs to prospect to be able to support themselves should read and read multiple times. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, also really good. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And these are just like books that have like really helped me develop a mindset of accountability. Like when I'm really struggling with something personally, accountability wise, I think of David Goggins. And I was like, man, this guy could do anything, it seemed like. Like he could run 10 miles on a broken leg. And it's like, when I have that that picture in my head, it's like, I can do this thing. I can make these calls. I can, do these door knockers, whatever it takes in order to be successful. That's what I get out of it. So by having this accountability plan in place for you and really, figuring out, where am I right now? Where do I want to go? What are the KPIs that are going to drive that change? Then being accountable to those KPIs with somebody or in a public setting, and then feeding your mind continuously with, good accountability, related books, things that are going to help you in this area. You're going to see massive progress in your business. And I believe accountability changes everything. And that in this shift, when everybody is like, oh no, what's going on? This could be the very opportunity and the environment that's going to help you win and succeed when everybody else is slowing down. I built the majority of my momentum came out of the last recession of 2007, when everybody was like, oh, the sky is falling. And I just said, everybody's focused on the sky falling. I'm just going to go focus on what I need to do to be successful. And I think in times of change and uncertainty, people do nothing. So this could be the time where you actually step away from the pack and actually begin to accelerate the growth of your business, because everybody else is focused on what isn't working instead of focusing on what they need to do that will always work. And accountability structure is going to help you do that. So I just want to encourage you to make a commitment today, set that goal, put it in writing, and then begin to exercise that plan and focus on consistency. You're not always going to feel like doing it, but the more that you can begin to do what you need to do and measure your progress, the results are going to pull you out of that next slump, because you're going to know, hey, if I do this thing, everything is going to change and be better. So I hope this was helpful for you. Check out the show notes for some additional support and some of the things we talked about here today. And if there's anything I can do to help you develop this plan, please don't hesitate to reach out.